Okay, it looks like I can't know if we're going or not. Sorry, guys, just give me a second. Okay, we got that. It's just signing on to the different things, it looks like. Come on, YouTube. There we go. All right. All right, you guys all set? Sorry, guys, just give me a second. Okay, we got that. Oh, there's a delay and I can hear it. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to mute all your devices.
So it's just signing on to the different things. I'm not sure how to mute Facebook or mute YouTube. Come on, YouTube. There we
You
go.
can close the windows because I'm monitoring them here.
All right, you guys all set? Okay, close the windows. Okay. Sorry, I just give me a second. Okay. Oh, there's a delay and I can hear it. Okay.
All your devices.
Okay. So it's just adding on to this thing. I'm not sure how to mute Facebook or mute YouTube. No, you do. Okay, I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna
close the windows because I'm monitoring them here.
Okay, if I close it, it may. Okay. Okay.
We are on YouTube. I don't see us on Facebook.
We're on Facebook.
It says live on Facebook.
Okay. All right. Let's get going. Sorry. Sorry about all that. Okay. Let's see. And then I'm going to start recording. Make sure I'm the one speaking. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mystic Chat. And today, in celebration of our Pride month of June, we are welcoming a very dear friend of mine and a fabulous author, Michael Herkes. Let me introduce myself really quickly. My name is Chris Allen, and I'm a published author, an ordained minister with the Fellowship of the Phoenix. And with that, I would like to introduce my co-host, Laura Gonzalez. Laura?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mystic Chat. My name is Laura Gonzalez. I am a minister with Circle Sanctuary, priestess of the goddess, a podcaster with the CSM podcast. I am a tarot reader and a witch for hire. And I think that's all I remember today. Hello. And let me introduce you to our other co-host, the lovely Ruby Ruse.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ruby Ruse. I am a pagan YouTube artist that focuses on fairy folklore, fairy faith spirituality, and fairy themed events. You can also find me on YouTube, and the name of the channel is Fairy Fortunes, but that's not as important as our very special guest today. It is my great pleasure to welcome the author Michael Herkes today. So please tell us about your brand new book on self-care.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be back on. I love your Mystic Chat and your whole setup. So yeah, just for anybody who's not familiar with me, my name is Michael Herkes. I've been a practicing witch for 20 years at this point, a little over. And I am a devotee to the goddess Lilith and specialize in glamour magic, clearly with all of the glamour going on around here, as well as moon magic, sex magic, tarot, all that good stuff. Crystals, I have lots of crystals, love those. But my brand new book kind of incorporates a little bit of all of that, Witchcraft for Daily Self-Care. It just came out last month. It's been up in the charts on Amazon's best new selling book in the category of witchcraft and spirituality. And this book kind of came to me last year, right after COVID hit. You know, I think we all were struggling and trying to figure out ways in which we can stay optimistic and feel better, and also, you know, do something. And magically, just in general, my emotions, everything magically and all of that was really stifled. So I needed to kind of start reworking my practice a little bit. So I started doing a few daily rituals and things just to kind of reignite how I was practicing and focusing more on my self-care. And then that turned into a book. So what we have here is a 90-day template for different spells spanning categories from the mind, body, spirit, environment, your relationships, and personal success. And they kind of build off of each other, but anybody using it can, of course, just skip around in any way that they see fit. And I start off by just kind of explaining what self-care is and how it's connected to witchcraft. For me, I look at witchcraft as an act of self-care because witchcraft in itself is something that really helps us find introspection and ways to not only empower ourselves, but to understand ourselves better. And so to me, it's an important tool. Witchcraft is an important tool that can help that self-care along. And another reason why I think it's so important to focus on magical self-care is because us as witches or people in the magical community, we have a duty to be of service to the world around us, right? The environment as well as other people in need. And we can't do that if we are not ourselves, tapped into the energy that we need to be at. We have to put ourselves first and become magically aligned within ourselves before we can start helping other people. So that's it in a nutshell.
I love it. I love it. So one of the things I really appreciated about the book is that it has something for everybody. And one of the things I really liked is because I'm working, going to school, doing magic, boy's tired. And sometimes I don't feel like, exactly, I don't feel like, okay, well, let's come up with something, let's research. It's already here for you. And what I like is, say, for example, everything's in sections. So you have body, you have relationship to the heart, you have a mind. And so if I pick body, first of all, the very first thing I flipped to was page 76, where it says, love your body.
Love your body spell, honey.
Perfect. And the other thing is purification of bath salts. And I love it. One of the things that I teach all my magical students is just because something seems like a simple essential oil or recipe, and by the way, the actual ingredients are not simplistic at all. But some people are like, oh, it's essential oil. Is that magical? Absolutely, it's magical. And I love the idea of, what I'm going to do this oil blend. I'm going to jump in the bath and I'm going to do some witchcraft and magic and take care of myself. I love that so much. What was your inspiration when it came to all these different things? Like, did you just sit around and think, oh, I'm going to come up with something? Or what was how did this happen?
So a good chunk of them are different spells or magical activities that I've just done in my life before, that I have had recorded in my own personal book of shadows, and things that I'm just familiar with. There's other ones that I just kind of needed to spark a little bit more creativity on. So I thought about, what I do, what would I like to do? And as you were saying too before, there is a little bit of something for everybody, because I think regardless of what type of magic it is that you're practicing, you can't always be on the high note, like the hard, crazy, like full moon ritual or something like that. That if you're doing magic on a daily basis, pretty much anything you do is magical. And again, taking some time out, like doing a quick outside meditation, going for a walk, sitting underneath a tree for 5 minutes and kind of connecting with the tree. There's simple exercises like that, and then there's other ones where you're crafting or I always like to call it witch crafting, some magical oil that you might be able to use that will help instill happiness in your life, or some bath salts to relax and use when you've had a really rough day and you really just need to relax. So a lot of it, again, is just stuff that I'm familiar with and that I've worked on. There's some, one of my best friend, Christina, supplied a cookie recipe in here too in the body, because we have to treat ourselves, right? And cooking magic
Yep.
is another avenue of witchcraft that I don't think gets a lot of attention or highlight. So there's some treat yourself cookies in the book, as well as some really
I
good
love it.
different detoxifying brews and teas. And yeah, I tried to. What I really wanted to do is create a book that was good for beginners, but as well as more advanced practitioners, because I've continuously seen and been asked, why is it that we have so many 101 books on witchcraft, but not, other ones that can be used by advanced people? And I think a lot of the time it is because when we've been practicing for as long as we have, we kind of get into our own ways. We create our practice, and then we don't necessarily need to be taught anymore. But what I, again, wanted to really stress with this was that there's just a lot of different things that I think people can really enjoy and connect to themselves a little bit more with, and maybe think outside of the box and do something a little different.
That's awesome. So, speaking of something for the intermediate and advanced practitioner, in your section Spirit, you have chakra meditations, and something I thought that it was really cool is the astrological self-care.
Yeah.
Tell us about the astrological self-care. Like, that's really interesting. So tell me about it.
And that could be in its whole other book, which maybe I'll write somewhere down the line, because I think I really love astrology. I mean, when we hang out, we always are somehow talking about astrology in some form or capacity. And I feel like every witch does. Whenever you get a group of witches around with each other, everyone's talking about what's your sign, what's your moon sign, what's this, all that. So when I was thinking about the spirit, and kind of what those spells would encompass, between like the chakras, the inner divinity, all of those different things, astrology made a lot of sense to me, because I'm pretty sure everyone that's connected to this interview is interested in astrology or believes in it, and doesn't think that it's just something false, fake, that is just kind of made up. But I, as a diehard astrological person, there's different ways that we can care for our specific signs, and then we can even expand on it and get into like the moon signs and the rising signs and all of these different things. The book itself, just for kind of space purposes, as well as introductory level, just focuses on the sun sign. But like me, for example, as an Aries, a lot of times I need to slow down, and I need to do something that's physical, and those have been kind of key things that have been written about for a very long time. There is something to it. So I use my knowledge of astrology to kind of put together a grid that's, based on your sign, what it is that you could do for that day.
I'm looking at my own sign, and it says Gemini.
What do I have for Gemini?
Write something creative, and I'm like, if I write any more, Jesus Christ.
I know. Right. So, and I'll just, because they're really quick, so I'll just do a read through, because I'm sure people are kind of curious. So Aries, be physically active. Taurus, buy yourself flowers or chocolates. Gemini, write something creative. Cancer, spend time with family. Leo, indulge in pampering yourself. Virgo, reorganize your home. Libra, have a magical makeover. Scorpio, explore your sensuality. Sagittarius, read a philosophical or spiritual book. Capricorn, build your career. Aquarius, do something social. And Pisces, create an art project.
I love, and I was thinking, for those of us who go to other planets and everything, like for example, my moon sign is in Aries, and so I have to be physically active, or else I get really cranky. And my cat.
And my moon is in Libra, and I have to have a magical makeover, or I get cranky. So I could totally get you on that.
Well, I think this is important, because especially, I was just having this conversation with someone over 2020. I wrote a 5th book. I started a graduate program. I did this, I did that. I did me interning at the hospital for chaplaincy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't have any stress. I'm fine, I'm focused. now that COVID's, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, no, I did have stress. I just repressed it. And I'm over
Yes.
here like, I need something because I'm noticing I'm feeling very imbalanced, and not in a bad, like I'm sick way, but just that I just feel a little off.
Feel off. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I think especially the astrological self-care, I think it's really cool to help us just feel better and find better. It's like, I think we all, I think we all have those moments of, who am I supposed to be? What am I doing? Or why did I
Mhm.
walk into this room again? And so
Yeah.
we're off. Um,
Well, and I think too, I kind of mentioned in the introduction, with all of our busy lives, the way society is right now, we're all always on go, 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 go with all of the different responsibilities that we have. And taking time out can sometimes feel like a selfish act, or like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for that because I have to do all these other different things. So, I even mentioned kind of, some self-care sabotage, and some of the reasons why I think, because self-care is a buzzword, it's all over the place. People are doing it left, right, and center, or they're attempting, and then they don't get the results that they want. And one of the reasons is by having, I can't think of the term, it just evaporated from my brain. High expectations or unrealistic expectations of what it is that they're trying to achieve. With magical self-care, it could be something as, again, simple as having a 5-minute meditation on your lunch break, or decompressing after work, and making sure you have like a lovely bath to yourself to distress and have that heat, and relax your muscles and things like that. There's so much magic in our just daily routine of doing things. I've talked about before, especially with glamour magic, the mirror. We look in the mirror like all the time. It's sometimes the very first thing that we do when we get up in the morning. We go to the bathroom, we look in the mirror, we get ready for work. We're always interacting with our reflection. And a lot of times we focus on what we hate immediately. And mirrors being magical, and us being magical people who are using our mind a lot of the times to help manifest things, by constantly focusing on what's negative, you're only amplifying that energy in the space around you. So I always tell people, when you look in the mirror, focus on what it is that you really, really love about yourself, or what you like, so that that's amplified over a pimple or something else that you have going on for the day. So that's that.
I love it. I think it's great. Laura, what are your thoughts about this?
I was gonna say, I love to hear more about the love your body, not just your face, or not just to focus on, as you say, the mirror, not just the face, so the body, because
Mhm.
we are bombarded specifically. And that doesn't mean other people with other genders don't get, but people who are born designated female and assume female as their gender, we
Mhm.
are bombarded all the time with either being too much or too little, or not enough,
Not enough. Yeah.
or enough of it, bring it down and tone it down and all that. Um, so, what are your thoughts on body, not only positivity, but acceptance? Especially talking at me as a fat human, I would like to know if there's anything in the book about fatness and fat phobia, and how fat bullying is the last accepted socially way of bullying humans,
Mhm.
and if there's anything on the book about it.
So I don't touch on bullying per se, and I don't talk about fat shaming or fat phobia, but I do have a bunch of spells in the body section that are geared towards helping you feel empowered within your body. There's a section too that I have that's called, I'll read it real quick. It's in there. It's like a little aside. It's a small little section, but it's just called the Healthy Witch. What does it mean to be healthy? Healthy is not a one-size-fits-all state of being. Each of our body types require different compositions for optimal wellness. Being healthy is ensuring that you are receiving the proper nutrients for sustainability and eating in a way that energizes your body. So eat the things that fuel your body, drink to hydrate yourself, move to stay energized and connected to your environment, and rest to restore your vitality. And to quote my friend Fiona Horn, don't ever drink shit coffee. So it's just I guess what I've tried to put out there for people is, you know, there's not a one size fits all of doing things. Everybody is different. Every body type is different. Again, like Chris said too, the very first spell that's listed in that section is a love your body spell, which incorporates using a mirror. Yeah, that's right. I did that with the mirror. Mirror, candle, oil, rose oil, all of these different things to sit with your reflection. And it's best done if you're nude or you're side-clad, so that you can really tap into your body and start loving your reflection and having that connection with your body. And that reflection, like I was just saying a couple minutes ago, when we focus on what's negative, you know, that's just anchored around us. So that would be kind of my little sprinkles that I have in the book that kind of answers your question.
Mm-hmm. And I think the only demographic that gets as attacked by the systems of oppression as women is gay men. You know, all the stereotypes that you have about you're supposed to be the gay, super fit, super beautiful, super,
Absolutely.
You know, and if you are different in any way, shape, or form, it's also, you know, you're drawn outside the lines, and it's like, how dare you, you know, gay men are supposed to be this, just like women are supposed to be.
Fit and masculine. Mask for mask, fit. Go to the gym, work out, play volleyball, wear Speedos.
Yeah.
If you don't fit in. Drink vodka sodas.
I didn't know about the vodka sodas, but
No, vodka tonics are better. Eat a little bit of sweet.
A little bit of something.
Yes. A little bit of something.
I love it. You chime right up in here. I was waiting for you to say something.
So Michael actually comes over almost every week and hangs out, and he has coined something called Christini, and a Christini.
Well, I coined it, but you coined it by making these Christini.
Well, I made it, but he actually came up with a name for it because it's kind of like a Cosmo, but
better.
Somehow I put more liquor in it. If that's even possible.
Yes.
So
it's like all alcohol and then just a spray bottle squirt of some cranberry.
Well, I mean, you know, being a massage,
but it doesn't taste alcoholic. That's the thing. It's mystery. Chris, you're doing your kitchen witchery right there.
My bartending magic.
Exactly.
You know, along those lines and connecting that with the book, you know, as a wellness professional and massage therapist, holistic healer.
Oh, and there is a massage. There's a self-massage in here too. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did. You know, one of the things I tell my clients is every day, for this comes in, every day you need to do something just for you, because we take care of our children, we take care of our clients, we take care of our students, we take care of our viewers, we take care of so many different people. We don't take care of ourselves. And what happens is, especially in the navel chakra, the pleasure center, the creative center, you start to have problems. It becomes imbalanced, and you have tummy problems. You have lower back problems. And you know, and I tell people to avoid having imbalances, you have to do something special for yourself every single day. And so it is having a drink, maybe it is doing a spell and things like that. I want to ask you something, because I think this is kind of cool. On page 102, you have something called Divine Yourself. Tell us about that, because I think that's pretty freaking cool.
So the name of this actually comes from a song Fiona Horn wrote and sung a while ago. She gave me permission to use it. And so when I was doing this, of course, I was originally thinking about doing a spell that was like to welcome or connect to your inner masculinity, and then another one, or your inner god, and then another one to do, you know, your connection to your inner goddess. And then I thought about it, and, you know, especially with gender and pronouns and how everything is these days, I'm just like, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. I personally would never, I mean, I just don't. I don't do anything that works with inner God energy. Everything is femme and feminine for me. So I was like, it just kind of felt inauthentic to do that. So I just kind of morphed them together and did a spell for Divine Yourself. And it involves using, where is it at? So it's kind of about using clay. So you take white clay and you kind of paint it over yourself, and you have some oils mixed into it too to smell good and all of that. And you connect to the earth in that way, and you connect to your just your own inner divinity. You're painting it on yourself, paint it in this perfect state, kind of like you're becoming a statue. That was kind of the idea and thought behind it, because we always look at our divinity as like these statue beings. So painting myself in like the white cosmetic clay kind of connects to that, and then doing the magical part of it as well. But yeah.
I love that. That's really cool.
And I have to be honest, like I saw it, I mean, that one was definitely really kind of based on this show that was out at one point called Mad House that Fiona was on. And she did a woman's circle one day where they painted all of themselves white with the white cosmetic clay, and meditated and celebrated their femininity together. So I was like, I loved that idea. You know, Fiona has been my magical mentor, you know, my whole witch life, and it just seemed right. And so I've done it myself, and it feels really, really, really nice to be in that space. And I'm sure it would be even better in a group of people, like if there was ever like a weekend retreat or something like that, that would be a really fun working to do, to call upon your own inner divinity and with a group of other people, and kind of, you know, look at yourselves as divine beings.
That's awesome. Ruby, what do you think about divining yourself? I want to get your thoughts about that.
I think it's a beautiful way, like you could even use that process to do some goddess work of invoking the goddess,
Mm-hmm.
to bring both those magical workings together. It sounds like something that I want to experiment with. As you were describing the ritual, I was like kind of lost in thought, thinking of how I wanted to use that in my own personal practice.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I've been thinking about as I'm listening to you talk, I know that for a lot of us that 2020 and 2021 have been very traumatic years, and this book feels so timely and so important now. And I'm wondering if you address anything in the book that's like magical triage, like self-care triage at all, like when you find yourself like wallowing in all of that sadness from 2020 and 2021.
So I have, where is it at? Trying to find it. There's nothing specifically about, I actually did put something in about 2020, and my editors did not want it. They didn't want it to kind of be like time stamped. They wanted it to kind of be useful for forever. So that got cut. But I would say that in the mind section, which starts first, because the way that it's organized is it starts with the mind, because once you get your mind centered, then you can focus on your body, and then you can focus on your spirit, and then from there you focus on your environment and the land that you're on, followed by your relationships with people, and then once all of those things are humming, so then focus on pulling in personal success. So I would say that the spells and rituals that I have in the mind section, I'm pretty sure I have there's one to release sadness. There's a spell to release sadness. There's a candle spell to surrender fear. So that could be used from the traumatic situations from the past year. There's also an anxiety bath. So you do a tea bath to help, the tea itself actually does work topically and like helps to de-stress you. As well as magically the other ingredients that are in it to create happiness. I know somewhere in here there is some kind of a shadow work spell, but I can't find it right now.
I think
There's a
that's
sound bath
fantastic.
meditation. Huh?
I'm
What was that,
sorry.
Laura?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That is fantastic because not only we are coming back from COVID and all the challenges that 2020, 2021 bring with COVID, and now the re-entry, new to better, as I like to call it, because I refuse to say back to normal. So our new to better challenges, but also with all the social situations that we have, because we had the pandemic that was global health situation, but then we have our very local politicized situations, right? So we have lots of magical beings, and not necessarily pagan or witchy, but magical beings that were working with activism and marching and trying to fight injustice and survive all kinds of injustices and racism and otherism and all these kind of things. So I really am thrilled that you put stuff there for people to recover. I mean, whatever self-care needs to look to every individual, seems like you have one for each, like whatever, you know, if it is
Yes.
anxiety or
And
fear.
then
I love the fear thing because also sometimes when we are activists, we don't want to talk about our fear. And that is such an intimate thing to do. And I think it's beautiful that you put a spell
Thank
there
you.
for to deal with fear, you know?
Well, and I also, in the relationships and community section, I have spells that kind of, what you just brought up, so I thought it would be good to talk about, like blessing local businesses, supporting social justice, let's see, setting boundaries with people, how to do a social media magical detox, how to give back to others, things like that are in that section for the community and relationships. It wasn't just a bunch of love spells all put together in one little section. There's like one love spell to help you connect with a loved one of any type. Yeah, there is literally something for every facet of life in the book, and something for everybody magically as well.
So now this is a personal question. I don't know if there's anything about it on the book, but I think you already answered, but I just want to be direct. I don't know if you noticed yet, but I'm kind of an activist besides being a witch. I like to be involved in all kinds of social, mover and shaker. That's my name. How much of that, if you experience any need to move and shake, how much of that goes into this book? Because I know being a devotee of Lilith, you gotta have some rebel in you. So
of course, darling. Yeah, I do touch on it. Like I said, there is the one spell for social justice, and then there's also another little section too that just kind of discusses magical activism. So it's not a big grandiose section, but there is a little sprinkle of it in here. Lilith also makes a sprinkle of a page
awesome.
right after the Divine Yourself section that we talked about. So as well as, and this is an important person too. I know I showed Chris the documentary of Rosaline Norton, if anyone's familiar with her. She was such a rebel in her time. She was an Australian witch and painter. There's a really wonderful documentary on her life now out there called The Witch of King's Cross. She was a beautiful artist, but because her art was pagan themed and sexual themed, the government took it, destroyed her artwork, all of this stuff. So she's in here as a small little sprinkle too when I talk about doing a creative artistic kind of spell with painting and stuff like that, because art in and of itself is magical, and she's kind of the poster witch for that, and again, someone that the witch community never talks about. I don't think anybody really here in the US knows that she exists. So that's in here too.
I don't know if you saw the audience, but more than one person did give you a thumbs up for
Yay!
That rebellious witch that is within all of us, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. I was just curious.
Of course.
Thank you.
So I want to talk about some glam stuff. But before I ask you about that, I have to ask you about mind my business spell.
Oh, yes.
That's fabulous. So 144.
So
I love it.
144. Well, okay, so I'm nosy and I like a gossip like anybody else. So I put a spell in here in your relationships for you to personally mind your own business because I needed that. So just to read it, I'll read the little intro to it. Whether it's casual banter between friends, water cooler chat at the office, or social media sharing, we are constantly trading information and ideas, some of which may not be factual. So that's the case too. Spreading in inaccurate information because it's like the telephone game where one person hears it and transfers it to somebody else. It gets lost along the way. So it's a freezer spell essentially. So let's use this freezer spell to encourage ourselves to say less and do more, of reducing our participation in gossip. And so then basically it's a freezer spell. So you take a strip of black paper, a black pen, you write what it is that you, or you write, I mind my business on the piece of paper. You put it into a container or a plastic bag with some garlic because garlic is vanishing, some water, freeze it, put it in the back of your freezer, and of course, enchant it and do the magical work that's associated with it. But that was a simple little spell.
I love
I
that
think
so
we
much.
all needed, especially with COVID. I mean, this whole last year with everything that was going on online and so many conspiracy theories and this, these crazy websites that pop up with false information and people saying stuff all over the place. Just mind your business, say less and do more. How can you be a solution rather than a problem?
Absolutely. I love it. So, one of the things that I really love about you is that you're you're very unapologetic about who you are, and that comes of course. I shouldn't say that. I should say that's empowered by your goddess Lilith, and being in the month of gay pride and stuff like that. Would you talk to us for a few minutes about what does that mean to just be your authentic, fabulous self, and along with that, I want to ask you for those people who have a hard time not coming out, but being authentic to themselves. How can they find that power within?
Great question. So with me, especially with it being Lilith, I mean, because Lilith, is unapologetically who she is, and to just, I mean, if anything is just not, if anything challenges who she is and what she's meant to do, then that's going to be a problem, and she's going to be more boisterous about it and more bold. And so I think she became a really good archetype in character, as well as a deity to kind of look up to as I was growing up and becoming more and more and more myself. And when I look back at kind of maybe my earlier 20s, late teens, early 20s, when I really was not, authentically myself, I would kind of always make fun of it. Like I was just the regular gay boy with the regular haircut that everybody had, wearing plaid and doing all of that. And that's why I will never wear plaid again. I burned plaid from my whole wardrobe. Sorry. But it took a while, and all I can say is that, like, in order to become unapologetically yourself, like you have to go through the trauma of what it does to you. And that's another thing that I learned about Lilith specifically through the pandemic, was like, a lot of people love her because she's such a badass, right? When you look at any of the other like kind of badass like characters on TV or movies or deities or gods, goddesses, all the different things. And we think that they're just so fiercely powerful, but we have to understand that like they are powerful because they endured pain. They went through some stuff, and that there is vulnerability in that power. So I would say, how can we tap into our own personal empowerment? I would do a lot of recommend doing a lot of shadow work and doing a lot of introspective type of magical work to be in touch, to get more in touch with who you are and what your needs are, and then starting to actually like really make sure that you're living that and you're making that a truth. I'm trying to find a good example. So for example, like I've always been very, very, very feminine, right? But it wasn't until like recently, in maybe the last 2 years or so, that I've started to really up the femininity in my appearance with more makeup, wearing a lot of caftans, embracing that a lot more. I would say a good chunk of why that came to be was also looking at the world and seeing people like Billy Porter or Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye who were doing it, and if they could do it, then I could do it. So another thing would be to kind of look at your role models and see and find inspiration through other people, and then use that as a kind of a guide, but then also a skin, because I've talked about before in like the Glam Witch, any type of glamour magic, it all comes down to creating a persona. And one of the best ways to do that is look at, some of your favorite characters, who they are, why they are your favorite, and then starting to imitate them in real life. I know imitation sounds like, just a little too cosplay-ish, but it's true. Some of the my biggest inspirations from like television and stuff, they've really inspired how I am in the real world, by taking on some of their roles and their archetypes and the things that they've done, the way that they dress, those types of different things. So, and everyone's journey is unique too. You might not find it right away, but keep going.
That's awesome.
Michael, suddenly we cannot hear you as well.
Oh.
So can you check if your microphone or something moved? And I will keep talking here. So the camera is on me.
Is it better?
No, it's the same.
No, it's the same.
Just all of a sudden, like we can hear you, but barely.
Oh.
Seems like your microphone maybe have lost power.
It's just the phone, and it's hanging out here. It hasn't done anything.
I mean, we can still hear you, but it's a
Yeah,
little.
we can still hear you. It's fine.
Just project.
Okay. Yeah.
Theater.
It just be loud. I know
Okay,
that
I have another
for you to be loud, but
I have another question for you.
Sure.
Going back to the topic of self-care, how would your advice be in cases of complete overwhelm? Like everybody says self-care, 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 but there's a lot of us right now where we have 2 or 3 jobs, we have families to take care of, and we may want to do self-care for ourselves. We know that that's a healthy process, but finding the time, like what do you do when you get to that place of complete overwhelm where you have to put food on the table, you have to go to that 3rd job for the day? Like, do you have an advice for someone like that?
So I kind of touch on it a little bit in the book, because again, with all of us, we all have different unique situations, and some of us have a lot more time than others. Some of us have a lot more responsibilities. I'm sorry, the cat's being a little crazy right now, so you might hear some stuff in the background. So what I'm trying to say is that, when you are overwhelmed, I do suggest, calendaring it in. Like if you're someone that's really, really good with like planning and calendaring it in, trying to find, something, I can't necessarily do it today, but, maybe this weekend, something coming up, I can focus in there. There's that approach. There's also just, up until recently, I have been working full-time, going to school part-time, wrote 3 books in 6 months. So I have a lot of things that I've juggled with too. And a lot of times it was just, okay, I'm going to, make sure that like the 5 minutes before I go to bed, I'm going to do something. Even if it's just, not even magical. I'm just going to just take a second and breathe or relax, or even, I hate using it as an example, but like watching TV, I'll watch one episode of like Sex and the City or The Nanny or something that's like a 30-minute long easy thing to unwind before I go to bed, or waking up a little bit earlier in the morning so that I can go to Starbucks and get a fancy, fabulous drink, because I know that's going to make me feel good right then and there. So I think, as I'm trying to say this more, I think honestly kind of getting out of your own head a little bit and thinking that it needs to be something that's so grandiose. Literally anything that you can find that's enjoyable. Even masturbation, sex magic. That's a big one for me. I don't know where to go after that, but anything that can kind of de-stress and work your life. I mean, we all need to take a shower, bath, all of that type of stuff. Even in those minutes, connect with the water that's coming down on you. I also talk about it here because I know if any of you have gone to like Trader Joe's, they have eucalyptus bundles. So you can get a eucalyptus bundle and hang that in your shower to have that kind of soothing environment. And that's something that, while you're putting that together and you're using the herb, you're using the oil that's coming out of the herb with the steam, that's magical in and of itself. But then, you create something in your house for everyone to kind of relax with a little bit when you take that shower. Does that help? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. I know I just keep going on and on and on and on.
No, it's great. It's great. So, but I like how, just exactly what you said about doing something special for yourself every day. And it doesn't have to be spend $100. It can be spend 4 or 5 at the Starbucks, just like you said, or whatever. I think, self-care. In one of my classes, we were talking about pastoral self-care because a lot of us have jobs that people lay some heavy things on us, and we have to see some heavy things and things like that. So, police officers, doctors, nurses, teachers,
Therapists.
yes, therapists, and so and that type of work empowers us, but at the same time, it really, really drains the life out of us, and we need to recoup. We need to find something that really helps.
Yeah, and again, to kind of go back to in the one section of the book that's for the relationship and community, I have something that's just for creating boundaries, setting boundaries, because a lot of times, we have to do that. I mean, I know I have to do it because even just in the office job that I have, hearing the chatter of other people and things that they're going through, sometimes it just gets to be too much because I have my own other things that I'm trying to deal with. And while I would love to be an ear or somebody to like kind of connect with, it's just hard because I have to do, I have to focus on me. And it sounds selfish, but I always use the analogy that like if we are a car and we're moving someone along, if we don't have gas, we're not getting them to the next space. Like we have to pull over, take that break, recharge in order to then help move more people and do our job and be responsible in that way. So taking time out to care for your needs is not selfish. And while there are so many other priorities that are in the world, we should also look at trying to prioritize us at the same time. Whether that is, again, trying to put in a calendar that, today for lunch, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something, or I'm going to spend this lunch period alone. I don't need to always be around other people. Let me find space within myself. Or maybe you have a friend that's really going through something right now, but you also are going through something and you need to kind of back away and focus on you. There's those situations as well.
Absolutely. I think that's so important. And, one of the things that I think people need to understand is self-care doesn't mean a spa day, but it certainly can.
It's not.
It's
Yes,
not that,
all of the
right.
lovely Instagram photos of the spa days, or a long, luxurious bubble bath, or eating copious amounts of like cake and fun stuff, which is great. We need some of that.
Exactly.
But it's a little bit of all of those things and then none of those things at the same time. And every one of us, just like how our own magical expression is unique, every one of us, our self-care routines are going to be a little different and a little more unique as well. So, and that's another part that I emphasize in this book as well. Tailor and shift and change the spells how you see fit that makes sense to you, that are helpful to you. It's just a template. Use it as a guide and create and change things how you see fit.
Yeah,
I think it goes with the territory of saying one more word that has been co-opted by the love and light community that is given the wrong acception: ego. Ego is not bad. Ego is good. That's why I always use the hashtag my ego is my friend, because we need our ego to have a sense of self. And self-care could be a spa day for those who that is what works. But it could also be like, I feel so depressed and so not worthy at this moment that all I can do is grab a tea light and light it, and that's it. And that is how you self-care for yourself that day. Um, it's so expected for people, especially for people of color, but for all the people that you're supposed to be selfless and you're supposed to be of service and you're supposed to be giving all the time, and you cannot give if you don't have. So you need
Exactly.
to have first in order to give. And I love that you, I'm assuming you put it on the book, of course, that people need to tailor this spells to their own needs.
Yep.
And don't be afraid of ego, you know, like, darn it, you work for it, so flaunt it.
Absolutely. It's one of those things like anything, I think, Laura, that it's, if it's over the top, like anything, I mean, you have to keep it in check, right? You have to keep it balanced. It's everything serves a purpose. And when, like ego can be negative, but it also is really, really positive. So it just all depends on how you work with yours and how you look at it. But I hate looking at anything as just point blank evil or something that we don't need. And I do agree that that's another step that I think that the love and light community right now is attacking. But it's a necessity. It's a part of us. We have it. It's part of our psychology. So just like our emotions, emotions are human. They're part of our design. We should be able to embrace them, work with them, look at them, whether they're anger, hatred, fear, all of these different things. They all exist for a reason, and none of them are necessarily bad. They all serve a purpose, and we need to look at what purpose they serve and how they can be beneficial towards us.
Absolutely. So we've come to the close of our show. So Michael, what final thoughts do you have about anything, the book, previous books, Glam, whatever?
Well, this is my third book. In the next month, I'm going to be announcing my fourth book. And then in about 2 months, I'll be announcing my fifth book. So stay tuned. I was a busy person during COVID. So they're all kind of coming out 2 months apart from each other. So I really like this book. I mean, Chris, too, like I was working on a completely different book at the time last year, and it just didn't feel like the book that was needed. And I needed this one to come out first before doing something a little bit more frivolous and upbeat. We needed to heal ourselves. So I would say to anybody right now, as we're coming out of the really dark past year, treat yourself to this book that will help you treat yourself on a daily basis.
Awesome. Ruby, do you have any final thoughts for us?
I've been listening because I've been struggling lately. So my final thoughts is that I just have been listening to what you have to say. You were talking about, be with your icons, channel your icons, and you're kind of an icon for me. So
channel me away, girl.
So those are my final thoughts. Is I've really just been drinking in the conversation today, because this is definitely a topic that is near and dear to me right now.
Awesome.
Lovely.
Laura, final thoughts.
As always, a pleasure to be with you all, the audience and everybody. And of course, Michael, as always, a pleasure to be with you. And of course, I have to ask you, where can people buy your books?
You can buy it wherever books are sold. It is Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, I think has it. I think I've seen it on Walmart. It's anywhere. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a pleasure. It's so strange that you're on Zoom and not in my house.
But I'm sure I will be this weekend or next weekend or something.
Probably. All right. With that, I want to say thank you to the audience, to everyone tuning in on Zoom, on Facebook Live, and I think I figured out YouTube, so that's awesome. So we'll see you guys later.
Bye.